Welcome to Charlie's Chatroom, your self-improvement, do-it-yourself go-to for important life hacks that put you in the best position to unwrap the best version of you. I'm Charlie, and we're ready to enlighten and empower. So pull up a seat and turn up the volume. For you listening, we're getting into the feeling of being overwhelmed. The blood rushing, the overflow of emotions and heavy thoughts, the tightness in the chest, the weak stomach or headache, whatever it is, that overwhelmed feeling can hit us in so many different ways. And today, we're focusing on the overwhelming feeling of a chaotic home and how it can spill over into our relationships. Picture this. And some of you already understand this very well because you live this life. You walk into your home after a long day. You worked, maybe you've run errands after work, or you had extracurricular activities with the children, and you're just now rolling in. You've been up since about 4:30, 5:30 a.m., and you just want to come into the house and let go of the day. You get that internal sigh as you pull up to your familiar abode. Finally, you're home. Then you step through the threshold and boom, it's a whirlwind of clutter. There's dog food spilled across the floor, handprints on the wall, laundry piles, and unfinished projects. Heck, maybe there's even unfinished projects in every room. Whatever. You're trying to relax, but your mind is racing. Your energy is drained, and you feel like you're barely keeping it together. This is a familiar feeling for many of us, and unfortunately, it can have a significant impact on our relationships. Why does a messy home seem to drain us so much? It's not just about the aesthetics, though a visually calming space can definitely help. It's more about the feeling of being overstimulated for most of us. Clutter creates visual noise, which makes it harder for our brains to process information, makes it harder for us to relax and to just focus. And on top of all the other things going on in a busy household of 3 or more people, that visual noise just amplifies. Imagine clutter as a series of tiny pricks, just annoying and painful, constantly chipping away at your patience and your good mood. Even small things like tripping over a misplaced shoe can trigger frustration and resentment. And here's the tricky part. We start becoming upset or lashing out simply because we're overstimulated. This overstimulation is when your senses are bombarded with too much information and often in a short period of time. Think of your brain as a computer. It has a certain processing capacity. When you're exposed to too much information at once, it's like overloading the computer system. It can't handle everything efficiently, which ultimately leads to a crash. Control, Alt, Delete. Oh, if it were that simple, just hit the reset button for the day. Hit the reset button for the past few hours, for the past 5 years, An untidy house may be sending smells to our nose senses. The sight of disorganization is impacting our visual perception. Tripping over things or needing to move clutter is calling on our sense of touch, and the physical space may even be limited. An unorganized house may also be noisy, which is tapping into our hearing senses. And each sense is a channel constantly sending information to our brains. When all those channels are being flooded with information at once, it's sensory overload, crash. Control, Alt, Delete. We need to reset. And here's more to the downside. Though we overlook overstuffed or chaotic spaces, they are like a constant low-level stress that builds up over time. And once they push us to a space of overload, it can seep into our relationships. When we're feeling stressed and on edge, it's easier to snap at our loved ones or withdraw emotionally, have difficulties being present. How many of you don't love coming home? Or you want to escape as soon as you get there? Are you truly upset that your son or daughter left shoes on the floor? Or are you upset because they don't listen to you? Because they're lacking structure and accountability? They talk back and disrespect you consistently. And the shoes on the floor were a reminder of your dysfunctional relationship. And the cherry on top that actually made you explode. Or is it purely because you fell down and busted your stuff? I mean, that would definitely upset me. Okay, I'd be mad if I busted my knee because of some junk on the floor that somebody could have just picked up. A messy home can easily become a breeding ground for blame and accusation. Instead of working together as a team in the household to create a clean and organized space, you all might point fingers and criticize each other's habits. Like that spouse that's not as in shape as when you met them. They've allowed hygiene habits to diminish. Maybe the attitude is not so pleasant anymore and you're dissatisfied with the love. You've hurt each other over the years. So now what happens when the dishes are left unkept? Or the bathroom and the bedrooms are a mess? All the gripes and disappointments with the love life get poured into complaints about the living space or who's being cleanly, who's paying attention and giving effort to maintain things. You get into a shallow argument about the surface issue of laundry piling up when the deep sore of disappointment, neglect, distrust, guilt, insecurity, all of those could be spiraling beneath like free radical cancer cells slowly eating away at your relationship. But we're not going to neglect the laundry or washing out the tub because that too is problematic and further putting us on edge. So I'm not deviating from the messy home being a roadblock to relationships, yet we must understand the language or symbolism being conveyed via the untidy household. If we understood this, how many divorces could be prevented if we kept the home orderly? How much money would you save if you actually wanted to cook in your kitchen because it's clean and inviting? How many lessons could the children have learned and what social skills could have been cultivated if the domicile had clear parameters and how to operate functionally? It's the subtleties, friends. Looking further, an unorganized home could be a sign of emotional avoidance. Have you considered this? Really listen to this position, and I'm going to get into this. I'm shifting gears. It could be a physical manifestation of feeling overwhelmed by life. This avoidance, understand? Instead of facing the task of straightening up and establishing systems, we might let things pile up as we do. This can be a way to avoid dealing with difficult emotions, trigger conversations, deep, serious issues that make us squirm on the inside. Our outside oftentimes reflects what is going on internally. And our inside feelings are reversely expressed in our outward actions or our environment. Now I'm going to give you a personal testimony to this one. And I had never considered this during that time. So we turned our spare bedroom into a study when we moved into our current home. There's bookshelves and a desk in there, some art pieces, drums, and my clothes are in the closet. However, instead of maintaining it as a study, I made it into my personal wardrobe closet. Never taking the initiative to keep it organized so anyone can go in there at any time and actually work, read, or study, or even making it comfortable with a futon for guests. The desk was a catch-all. There were clothes strewn about. The ironing board was always left out. I never folded it and put it away after I got done using it. My robes were hanging on the door hooks. It was just not very inviting at the time. The rest of the house, however, is well structured and always has been, especially the living room and downstairs spaces where we're always at. I do all of my work in the living room space on the couch. I have this lovely eclectic farmhouse space. My husband enjoys plants, so we have a lot of those around. I mean, it's the perfect balance of positive and negative space. It's not too feminine, and it's extremely cozy, complete with a wood-burning fireplace. I absolutely love this part of the house. Yet, it is not conducive to working on the computer for long periods of time, or working with documents when I need to spread them out. So, why didn't I just use the study? It didn't make sense for me to be slumped on the couch and not at a desk at times, when using the desk would have been more physically comfortable, especially for my wrist and lower back. And then it finally hit me. That aha moment. I was avoiding the confrontation of the study. We never thought that rooms could be intimidating. Did you ever think a certain room in your home had an intimidation factor? Have you ever been in someone's trophy room or personal gallery? When I met my husband, he had this immaculate collection of books on his entertainment system. Like, who the hell has a TV in the middle of all these big books? We used to go over for fellowship that he hosted at his flat once a week, and this was before we were together. And I can remember the envy in my heart. I thought to myself, every time I went over there, wow, he's just so smart. And I was intimidated by his genius simply from the book display. I felt convicted as a scholar because I was not committed at that time in my life to expanding my intelligence through literature. And I was jealous because this guy read books. Now fast forward to our home study today, or in this period of time, when you go in there, you must do exactly that. Put in work. The components in there demand you to grow by way of studying. We've got some heavy hitter books in there with deep, deep knowledge. And guess what my position was? I don't want to read right now. But if I go in there, I'm going to have to engage that intellectual realm. I can bum around all day on the couch and browse social media. But if I go sit at that desk, that means it's time to work. If I pull up a seat in the study, there's books to my left and books to my right. So what you reading today, Charlie? Get into it. The conviction of going months without reading a book, it was heavy, and I purposely ignored it. I used to be an avid researcher. How could I fall into such a low slump? This space was designed for knowledge, and our study was a place that I was hiding from. I didn't want to be challenged. Status quo was okay for me. Why? Because with great wisdom and knowledge comes great responsibility. Because knowledge is power, and wisdom is the truest form of power, of self-control, of self-evolution. King Solomon was wealthy beyond measure. He could have asked the Lord for anything, but he prayed and asked God to give him wisdom above all else. He wanted the power of discernment to lead the people, to be a good king, because he didn't have that understanding. God appeared in a dream and said, "What do you want? Ask me for anything." And he said, "You have a mighty people. Give me discernment to lead them." So wisdom and knowledge is super powerful. So I unconsciously and still intentionally at that time let the study be in disarray. Because knowledge is power. I was going to have to be responsible if I started going in there. I was going to have to start learning, start applying that to my life. So what did I do? I avoided until I decided to buy a floor cushion one day. I wasn't, the study wasn't completely done being decorated. Like I said, there's a desk and books in there, but there's not a sitting space. And so I wanted floor cushions to relax on the floor and read books. And during that time, I refused to buy anything that I wasn't going to actually use. This became my policy of trying to be a minimalist and not unnecessarily spending on stuff, because it's way too easy to shop online. I mean, Temu is killing the game. Amazon, you just get on the app and you just add stuff to the cart. Senseless stuff you don't even need. So I wasn't going to buy anything that I was not going to readily utilize. Had you ever considered that getting organized in your physical space is going to call to the deep within you? So once I bought the floor cushion, I knew that I was going to have to start sitting and start reading. And I'll conclude my testimony there. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying about this emotional avoidance and simply not cleaning because you don't want to deal with something. Something can be laying dormant inside of you, something you don't even know is there. Look into it. And again, I'll pose the question, have you ever considered that getting organized in your physical space is going to call to the deep within you? If I clean my house, I got to change my attitude. If I clean my house, the kids got to get in line. If I clean my house, my spouse has to move different. Because if it's clean and then things get out of place, now we're focused on the culprit. And the person out of place or doing the things that do not fit our structure gets the spotlight. And they got to answer questions as to why they're out of line. Why are you dirty in the dishes? Why are you not with the system? And now we're looking at their character. So systems and structure can be a scary thing. Accountability, friends. So much emotional chaos lies in the disarray of what we call daily life. And it's physically manifested in our home habitats and our personal habits. So what can we do about this? How do we bring order so our relationships thrive? First, acknowledge the problem. This is the first step. Recognizing that your home environment is contributing to your stress or as a result of your stress or the stress. It's not about blaming yourself for the mess, but understanding how it's affecting your well-being and the relationships in the home. And then next, you can start small. You don't have to tackle everything at once. Pick one area to declutter or organize, even if it's just a drawer or a corner. I'm not saying start with the junk drawer either. It could be the jewelry box on your dresser, the sock drawer, the medicine cupboard. Start small. Give yourself grace. And my last piece of advice would be to get support. Talk to your people about how you're feeling. Don't suffer in silence. If you don't feel like you have anyone or you don't feel comfortable, then grab a journal and pour it out. Don't keep that bottled in and stuffed up. Structure your thoughts on paper and then make a plan that works for you. Get a journal app on your phone, type it up, whatever method works for you, but just do it. Ask for help or devise a plan. So that's all I have. Let me hear from you. Have you ever felt like a chaotic home was affecting your relationships? What small things in your home trigger frustration or drama? Let's talk about it, y'all. Share your experiences and tips in the comments below. Thanks for joining me. Remember, creating a more peaceful home environment can lead to stronger relationships and a healthier, happier you. Until next time, go forth and be well. Peace.